More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimany, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern-day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of Beyond the Pills. I'm Josh Rimany, pharmacist turned healer. And today I've been thinking about this. There's a story that I keep coming back to. It's one where somewhere does something right. They track their sleep, they take their supplements, they get the 8 hours, and they still wake up tired, still foggy, still wondering why their body feels like it's working against them. But what if the answer isn't in a bottle? What if it's how you breathe? My guest today has built his life in multiple companies around that question. Michael Laing started where lots of entrepreneurs start. He was a product of experiences and broke those experiences because they broke him open. What came out on the other side was a conviction that most of us call exhaustion. It isn't character flaw. It isn't willpower problem. It's often a structural problem, a physical one that nobody told you about at your last physical. Through Airway Health, Michael works with a clinical team in Austin, Texas, to actually change the structure and function of people's airways, palate expansion, orthodontic alignment. We'll get into all that so that treating sleep apnea at the root becomes possible, not just managing it with a machine for life. But it'll also tell you this matters even if you don't have a diagnosis, even if you think you sleep fine. His long game is bigger than that. We're going to get into it, I hope, like regenerative communities, multi-generational living, health built into the land itself. But today we're starting where it always starts, with the breath. So Michael, welcome to Beyond the Pills. Let's go beyond.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Josh. I love the kind of segue or the journey. It feels really good to be here and excited to just help educate and bring awareness to, where it all starts. Like you said, the breath, and really breaking down what it means to breathe properly and just different signs that you can look for in order to optimize your breath and breathing. Like I really loved how you phrased I've tried everything. I'm wearing red light glasses, I'm sleeping 8 hours, and I wake up and I'm still tired.
Yeah, I got my Oura ring, my sleep score looks good, all the things. Because that's when people come and find us. They're like, I think I'm doing everything, but I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
So bring us back, man, like your origin story. How in the heck did you get to this place in where you are right now? I love hearing stories of this because this show is all about healing. It's not about symptom resolution. It's going beyond pills. And everybody's story of healing and transformation generally starts with their own.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love the kind of story and the journey, and also just it really resonates. Like my purpose, when I was a kid, people would ask me like, "What do you want to be?" And I was like, always a veterinarian because I wanted to help heal animals, right? And then when I learned what an actual veterinarian did, it's like, mostly putting animals down. I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to do that necessarily. So I actually transitioned into like what I thought a healer was. So I was like, let me be a medical doctor. Pursued that path, went to college, joined a group called Global Medical Training, and we set up pharmaceutical clinics in rural, underdeveloped countries, and had this interesting revelation there that most of the people, in order to heal, they didn't necessarily need another prescription. And when we would prescribe them something, they'd go outside, and a lot of times there's a translator in between us, and they would just kind of pop the bottle open, and all the other villagers would come around and they'd just split it and walk away. And I was like, man, I don't feel like I'm healing anyone right now. And so that ended up transitioning more into natural movement, which then transitioned into the nutrition space. I got my master's in nutrition, started doing at USC actually, started doing corporate wellness programming, and then also programs for nutrition and movement at community centers in underserved populations. Felt super empowered there and started to realize that there's really pivotal experiences that people can have, but there's not a lot of support to help integrate back into their everyday life. Like,
Right.
when we were working in this kind of corporate space, it was really cool because we were able to take people and do their blood work before and after and have a 5-day intensive intervention where we would do movement. We would have like all you can eat. It was a whole food plant-based retreat run by Total Health Immersion. So Scott Stoll was leading it. And it was awesome. We were just watching these people like lose pounds, switch out, titrate down their medication, whether it was blood pressure or insulin, because their levels were getting too low. But then afterwards, the adherence to sticking to that was just so low. And, I saw that problem just as any entrepreneur would. And I was like, well, why don't we start a lifestyle medicine health coaching program and do kind of the remote route. And that was right before COVID. So that was a little bit of a bottle rock in kind of that space. And eventually we pursued that for a little bit, had a really fun time. The company's still around. It's called Terra Health Coaching.
Mhm.
And they're great. John's great. The team's great. And I actually transitioned into the supplement space. And from the supplement space, I actually had a really a really cool insight to come into this whole airway arena. And I've been here for about a year and a half, and it's been really powerful. And honestly, as someone who has a background in the healthcare space, I never really realized how much emphasis or power our breath has over our everyday quality of life. And, this is coming from someone who I slept fine. Like there was nothing wrong with my sleep. If I took a sleep study for 4 nights before I actually went through any treatment, I would score about like an 85%. I had about a 15% fragmentation in my AHI number, which helps measure sleep apnea. It was around 11. So it wasn't awful, but it wasn't great, And then afterwards, I went up to like a 96%. My fragmentation cut in half. My AHI went down to like 2.7. And I wake up now every night just refreshed, feeling incredible. And I really am excited to kind of share that with people, that they really have the power to go to sleep every night and wake up feeling refreshed, recovered, and healed,
Well, let's talk. What happened to you that made you believe that? Like where did Airway Health fit into it? Like it went from like, I'm doing this, this, and this, and then that. Talk me through that download that you had, because those are so fun to understand, where people just, they get some bam, and then they're like, yes, I got to go that way. We talked about it offline, but I want people to know, like, what came up for you? Like, how did that airway thing just manifest itself to you?
Yeah, of course. So about a year and a half ago, I went with my friend to the Amazon, and we kind of went on like a work project where the intention was to go paint an indigenous tribe's village. We were going to build a chicken coop and really just serve them and integrate into their culture.
Love it.
And I was beyond stoked to go, because I've heard a lot about like plant medicines and indigenous culture, and I've always wanted to experience it, but I wanted it to be a very like authentic experience, not like just something that would be like a weekend warrior, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a 2 or 3 week immersion into this community. And just for reference, from LA to getting to the spot where we were staying was like 36 hours. So it's not like let me just take a flight over there. It's like, let me take a flight to another flight to like a 4-hour car ride to like a 4.5-hour boat ride on a single
I
prop.
think that's why we both like connected, because I had that same story. Like I did my journey in Peru. I wanted to go with the indigenous got people, be immersed in it. It was a 3-week experience for me.
Yeah.
So it was in Peru, going through this journey and understanding it from that deep level. And that's, of course, where these things happen, right? But airway, huh? It just boom.
Yeah. So it was less of like, oh, this is airway. It was more, you know, I think it's two things. One, it's being with the tribe. It's spending time there. Two, it's disconnecting. There's no cell phone service. And I don't know how many people listening have not had their cell phone for 3 weeks, but you just start tapping into your intuition. You start being able to like really hear what your body is telling you to do. And it wasn't necessarily like ping airway. It was like, hey, my friend that I've met like 5 or 6 times, we've hung out maybe 3 or 4 times, he needs help. And that was the doctor that I ended up working with, Dr. Amit Trivedi. And I just gave him a call. I connected to Starlink and I was like, hey, how's it going? Like, hope all is well. I just, I'm in the Amazon and I just had this feeling that you could use help with something. And he's like, actually, I have a dental clinic and I want to rebrand it into an airway clinic. Like, I see this as a upstream problem to all of the things that I'm doing in my clinic. And I don't necessarily know how to go about this rebrand or what it looks like, but why don't you come fly into Austin and we'll see what we can do. So that was the start of the airway journey.
I want the listeners to really feel that, right? You wouldn't have gotten to this place had you not done the things you did to listen, right? I call it like the poof. Like the intuition isn't like, for me, and for a lot of people that I've interviewed in this similar situations, like when you're disconnected from all the noise and you're in this beautiful nature and you're eating whole foods, like there's this energy, this magic that kind of happens that you can't get anywhere else. Now, some people could go for a hike, and do that, but like 3 weeks is literally me. I was 21 days, like no phone, no nothing, just doing the thing. And like, I came back a different human.
Yeah.
And then, but I love the inspiration and the ambition. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to call this guy, get on Starlink and hey, I'm hanging out in Peru, these, Shabipos and like, it's like, yeah, but actually like that actually happened that way, I love it, man.
For sure.
That's how it works. So walk me through a little bit what's actually happening structurally when someone has a compromised airway. Like what are we missing, that their dentist or someone never told them? Most people don't identify with dentistry and airway health and longevity, that, like you said, it was that upstream thing. I just want to get people to kind of go through this logic a little bit because I'm sure a bunch of the listeners have read Breath by James Nestor, and there's some level of understanding with this. And if you haven't, that's an amazing book. Changed my way of how I thought about the breath. But talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, 100%. I actually love the James Nestor book, Breathe, too. That changed my relationship with how I breathe and also the attention and awareness that I had to my breath. It got me excited about running. Like the way that he describes running and how he was able to keep like focusing on how he was breathing. Yeah. It's really interesting because before I was like, running is boring. But once you start really toning into your breath, it is just another animal. There's just so much depth there. And your tongue placement and how you're breathing, specifically nasal breathing. And so I guess to kind of like bring it back, airway health is essentially how we're exchanging oxygen from out in the universe, the atmosphere, into our body, into our lungs, so that our body can grab that oxygen and emit CO2. And dentists are the ones who are like, if you think of like who's in charge of what in healthcare, dentists are the people who are in charge of the mouth. And so, you go to your dentist when there's something wrong with your teeth. And they're the ones that are actually looking at what can dictate whether or not someone has proper development of their airway or not. That's kind of how Dr. Trivedi got put into that space is he kept seeing the same things over and over and over again. And he kept like fixing the same fillings, doing the same crowns. And a lot of the times the upstream issue came from a structurally smaller airway. And a lot of the times this is happening because our maxillas, like this bone, our cheekbones right here, are becoming less and less developed. And just like every other bone in our body, at a young age, they get strong and stretched out by usage. Like muscles, us walking, us crawling, are pulling on bones, stretching them out, giving them more length. And historically, other generations, not necessarily post-industrial revolution, we used to have to like tear with our teeth. We used to have to breastfeed continuously. Like our food was hard. And we've transitioned into like soft, mushy convenience that it's just changing the applied forces from a young age all the way until adulthood. And just like any muscle, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So over time, our faces, our maxillas, our transpalatal width, like the distance between our two molars here, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's not at the same rate as our tongue is changing. So our tongue is staying the same. Our tongue is here, it's staying the same. And the space of our molars is getting smaller. And what that's doing is it's going to push our tongue, let's say like this is my face, it's going to push our tongue backwards.
Yeah.
And when it comes back, what that's going to do is impede on the airway. And so now imagine you have a hallway. I always think of like a school hallway where it's kind of narrow and there might be a couple doors. And when both doors on either end are open, it kind of creates a wind tunnel, right? And the closer that area is, the walls on the school doors are, what it's going to do is it's going to speed up the force at which air is traveling through.
Right.
So think of that the same way you think of your airway. If you have a smaller airway, as air moves through, the velocity of the air is going to be way higher than if you were to have a lot of room, a lot of space for the air to travel through, because it needs to get down into your lungs and back. Now, we have soft tissue like our tongue and our uvula that are actually going to get like flapped in like strong winds, which can cause, like, that's essentially snoring, is the vibration of our soft tissue. And at the same time, if that advances, that's what causes sleep apnea, is when our airway is actually blocked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's the way I hear it is like it's a structural problem.
Yeah.
More, and it's an evolutionary problem that it's the sort of the side effect of our modern day like, yes, we were hunter gatherers eating like bark and like things that were just like, you've got to chew through this stuff. Like, I just think of my dog. Like, my dog has these bones and he eats like this stuff and he's always working the jaw.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten, you can call it lazy or you can call it modern day, but like if you don't use it, you lose it. But then it's a structural problem that we haven't been able to see or address. We've been putting Band-Aids on it with the traditional method. It's kind of like thinking of it this way too, is like, this is kind of a people problem. This isn't like that guy's problem. It's like, and it's kind of an everybody problem, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, but if you're not to the place of getting chronically issue, like, oh, I have super sleep apnea, I did all this stuff. It's like, no, there's this layer of people that also probably could be optimizing this in certain ways, because the reason we got together is a good friend of mine has gotten through and has understood this from a place of, oh my God, my whole life I haven't been sleeping and it could be this one thing. And it put a whole lease on him, because we know what we don't feel like. But 85 to 96 is kind of the place I want to go, right? I don't want to go from like 40% to 60%.
You definitely want to just maximize your ability to breathe and exchange oxygen with your environment, because that'll allow your body to heal itself just so much better. And that's like, post-workout, that's metabolism, that's cognitive function. All of the systems in the body can relax when it can rely on oxygen from your environment to come in and help regulate everything.
Well, I think what we've been talking about here is like, I love wellness made simple, right? How simple is it to get the quality of the oxygen in the air that we need for life? Like, if we stop breathing, we stop living. It's simple, right? There's certain things that we can go days or weeks on. Like, you can go 40 days without food, but you can't go too far without air and atmosphere, and you certainly can't go too far without water. But we take it for granted in a way, like, not to vilify anybody, but like,
Yeah.
you just take breath for granted. When I read the book Breath by James Nestor, like, I just really changed the way I thought about it. Like, deep diaphragmatic breaths are different than shallow breaths. Breathing through your nose always, except for when you're talking, right? I think you're shedding light on this, but like, what's the solution? Like, what can we be doing now? You have this method that you've working with Dr. Tribati. Like, you're working through this process of how do you restructure, like, talk to people about this. Because this is a big difference than what people are normal, like the CPAP and like the machine and all that stuff. Like, that's where I think only people go.
Yeah. Well, CPAP is like, a grade A Band-Aid. It's like, let's introduce positive pressure so that the soft tissue can all get pushed up against the walls and there's no collapsing. And that allows us to bring oxygen in and out. And, we're going kind of the other route. We're like, okay, cool. If our hallway is really narrow, let's expand our hallway out, give it more room so that air can flow more fluidly without any issues. And what we do, there's different levels of treatments. Like, for kids, it's a little bit different, but for adults, the main thing we do is palatal expansion. And we have a custom, what's called a custom MASP. So it's a mini screw assisted slow palatal expansion. And it goes up on the roof of your mouth. There's like 4 little tads that hook, and there's a lingual bar in between, and you slowly crank it open. That's the most consistent way to get palatal expansion. And most of the time we'll get around like 5 millimeters of expansion that way. And we track everything with like CT scans. So we're able to see how the face is moving and where it's going to split. And for those people who don't necessarily want to put any tads or have a permanent structure in their mouth for 8 months, we also have a removable appliance that we use as well too. I actually did the removable appliance, and the difference is that when you do just the removable appliance, one, you have a wild lisp, which is pretty funny to just turn into kind of like a lispy individual. And two, when you're actually getting that space, you can actually start to see like a gap in between your 2 front teeth. So as your palatal suture kind of like splits, which is the line that connects the upper palate, it's broken into 2 halves. And what we're doing is we're applying pressure so that it moves out laterally. So we do transpalatal expansion. We're going this way. And so some of our appliances that we have, we'll do the transpalatal expansion. And then after that, we have orthodontic alignment. So clear aligners that are actually designed to help align everything while keeping them expanded. You wanted the connection between dentistry, and traditional dentistry is based off constrictive orthodontics. It's like bringing everything together in order to align it. And whenever you bring everything together, you decrease the amount of room in your mouth. And that's that same problem that we were talking about, pushing the tongue back, making the airway smaller. So this is the opposite, is we're pushing it all out.
And then aligning.
Yeah. And then aligning.
Like, my 2 girls are going through this process now. This is why I was like highly interested in my friend going through this space. Is like, they're 10 and 12. And they're going to the orthodontist, and they're just saying, like, you need to do braces, you need to do this. Like, my daughter did some expansion when she was young, and I really wanted to make sure that we were like setting them up for success, because truthfully, right, when you go to the orthodontist or the dentist or any of these people, like, you automatically have to take them as the expert and then going with that way. And then, I always I give the book Breath to my dentist. I'm like, have you read this book? Like, it's a different way to think about things. And what do you think? And he's like, thank you, so I just want to make sure people understand, this is a different way to do it, but it feels to me like it's more naturally designed to do what we're supposed to be looking out for,
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of the reason why I started to really become passionate about it, because it just makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, I definitely want to make sure that I can develop my jaw so that there's more space in my mouth so I can breathe more efficiently. And what's absolutely wild is even a couple months into the treatment, it's kind of like the first time you go to the gym where you just see such exponential gains. I did an airway volume assessment before and in the middle, and it increased by 25% total volume. The smallest cross-sectional area and the whole volume itself went up by that 25% number. And that's the difference between shaving a couple minutes off your mile or waking up the next morning just feeling like you just had the most restorative sleep of your life.
Well, imagine 25% more battery power in your body, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee you any professional cyclist listening to this at this point is I can naturally get 25% more air in my lungs to a Tour de France professional. That's actually a big deal. You should change. Do you do that?
Yeah, for sure.
There's no doping in that. You're literally just helping your own way. And just as soon as you said that, I'm thinking of the Tour, and I cycle. So it's maybe they can totally figure that out. I don't know.
1,000%. It feels like a cheat code, honestly. And it's actually really inspiring afterwards to start training and becoming more athletic because of how much more capacity you feel like you have.
It's VO2 max, exactly what it's designed for in a different way, right? You're not training the lungs, you're training the hallway, right? You're getting just coming in more. How do people get to that place where they understand they might need something like this?
There's two different type of people that we were talking about. One is the person who needs the CPAP, and the other one is the Tour de France individual who wants to absolutely optimize. And the best way that we found to kind of do an assessment is two different components. One is a structural examination, and the other one's a functional examination. So the structural is that CBCT imaging, and we take into consideration your height and your size, and then do a assessment of your transpalatal width and how big your tongue is and what your tongue posture, where your tongue is sitting. So your tongue posture. So that's one area. And then the other area is the function of your airway. And that we do through an at-home sleep test. So it's 3 nights. It's a little ring that you can pop on your finger. And you can see hey, is my airway actually stable throughout the night, allowing me to completely go through REM cycles? So those are the two different ways that we use to assess before, during, after treatment, so that we can actually see progress and change over the course of our program.
That's helpful because I think, the first step is always awareness, right? Okay, we're hearing this stuff, this is a real thing. The health and vitality is here. If we're talking about the end result is just getting quality good, like you said, we're getting our 5 cycles of REM and deep sleep, that's 3.5 years of longevity. The studies show it. There is no pill for the ill for that. Everybody wants to know about the next peptide or NAD and all these things, and I always go back to nail your sleep. And but then they don't know what to do with that, right? We track, we measure, we do those things. But what if it's the structural piece that most people have a little bit of an issue with? And I think the other side of it is a lot of the clients that I have these days, they're really into optimization.
Yeah.
They're not just into, they want to be the best versions of themselves. They want to be at the highest level. And it's here's one opportunity that you could explore if it aligns with you and you've got a way and manner in which to do it. One of your clients is my clients, and so I've seen the uptake. I've seen all the diagnostics you've done. It's super thorough, and
Yeah.
it's very advanced. And I really appreciated like the way and manner in which it was sort of presented in that way. Tell me a little bit about that, because I think, what's this airway stability index?
Oh, the ACEs score.
Yeah, tell people about that. What is it
Yeah.
measuring? Why does it matter? Is it someone that can get data from home? Like, what is that?
Yeah, for sure. That was Dr. Trivedi's assessment that he created for people to actually create awareness. Oh, my airway might be compromised. And it's a quiz that we have on our website. It's not very long. It asks you kind of like stages throughout the day, like are you experiencing any of these types of things? Because of how upstream airway is in our health, we don't necessarily always create the connections to like, hey, I wake up to go pee at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up feeling tired. I consistently need caffeine, or I'm drained. Like all of those things can have correlations to our airway. And once we start to kind of like piece together a bunch of symptoms that we typically see in airway patients, then it's like, okay, amazing. Let's actually get you evaluated, because this could be something that would benefit you. You know, even if you just did a quick search around of our population, it's like somewhere between 10 and 30% have OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, which means there's an issue with how they breathe. And it manifests like worse at night, because when you're breathing at night, your body, in order to restore the airway and kind of pull those walls back so that it's able to maintain flow, is going to have a micro-arousal. And that micro-arousal isn't going to consciously wake you up. So you're not going to be aware that your sleep is being interrupted, but it's disrupting your REM cycle to actually.
Brain waves are getting disrupted.
Exactly.
But
To
not
make
your
sure.
conscious awareness, but they're being disrupted.
Yeah, it's got to make sure that the airway is maintained. Just like you said, we can only last a couple minutes without air. And if we're sleeping for 8 hours, it's something that needs to be addressed right now. And there are people who have like multiple disruptions. Even my better sleep score, I think I had like 11 disruptions in 1 hour, which is like, that's a lot of breaking apart a complete REM cycle, which, if we think of like what our REM cycles are doing, it's flushing our brain of all the neurotoxins and all the things that have built up through all the day. It's repairing our muscles. It's regulating our metabolism. Like there's so many important things that are happening during our sleep, and our breathing is kind of like the support, the main partner for that. And so, yeah, just really making sure that we can like maintain our breath throughout the entirety of like our life, depending, no matter who you are, whether you're an athlete or you're someone who just wants to feel better every day, is so important. And that ACEs score just helps create more awareness, right? And I know we talked about this earlier too. Getting people to take the ACEs score is amazing. And if anyone who's a part of your community wants to like dive in and do that first assessment with the at-home sleep study, more than happy to offer $100 discount on that 3-night sleep study, because I think it's really important.
We definitely talked about that in our pre-production, pod recording. Was like, we're now that with the Stay Well community is built and we're building this out of the community, we're like, hey, is there anything you can offer the community? He's like, you were perfect. You were just like, we do this 3-day sleep study. It's at home. You get this all set up, and you're like, it's like, I think it's like $350 or something. And it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
we'll give you guys $100 off. So we're going to put that in the show notes, and we're going to have that link for people. 'Cause thank you. Like, that's the goal. The goal is like one non-invasive, not very expensive thing could go a long way in somebody's health. You nailed it. Like when I talk to people about sleep, it's not because you're trying to sleep and rest more. You're recovering. Everything happens in your sleep. The dishwasher cycle in your brain, you cannot detox all the toxicities, all the cortisol, all the chemicals. You don't process emotions. You don't process them until you're sleeping. So that's why longevity is so important for sleep, and sleep important for longevity because it is the number 1, number 2, and number 3 tool. So if it's an airway thing, none of the other stuff, like you can sleep cold, you can monitor your stuff, you can take all the supplements. If the structure is off, none of that's really going to be as beneficial, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we have, and it's a beautiful, like the system that you've created to me is the exact same way as like you do one assessment, super easy, then you do one super easy at-home thing, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do it. It just means that you might be a good candidate to explore the next level, right?
Yeah.
And down,
100%.
we just move slowly down the line to going, oh, this is for me or it's not. And it's perfect. It's like really easy. And I love how that's dialed in.
Yeah. Because it can give you, whether you want to go the whole route of palatal expansion or not, like there's jump ins depending on what we find, if that makes sense. Like some people, they have wide airways, but functionally it collapses. And so that's where something like myofunctional therapy or like tongue exercises plays a huge role because they have enough space, but there's just too much collapsing. And we can fix that through myofunctional therapy. And that's like a quick and easy 15-minute a day, like 3-month program that in research, it drastically reduces people's symptoms of sleep apnea, like 30 to 50%. So it's really cool to kind of like be able to execute and like install these healing modalities once we have that awareness behind whatever the assessment is that we're doing.
And again, so clean, right? Clean because you don't have to go, there's just certain things you can learn to do. It's like lifestyle, right? It's all free or low cost. Like just doing tongue exercises for 15 minutes a day. And you were telling me before, it's like, I've been doing this for 2 months. I've got all of this. Like, it's just like working out. Like, you just got to do it little by little by little. But come on, we all say we don't have enough time. But if for 15 minutes a day, anybody can carve that out of their schedule. And it's not like you're taking time away from everything else too. You can kind of 2 for a 3 for stack it,
Yeah, 100%. And I think with the whole lifestyle medicine and there's so many things that someone can focus on, right?
Yeah.
But really just simplifying it down. Like I don't ever want to get to the point that it's like, oh, breath is the only thing that matters, right? Like there's a lot of things that matter. And if you focus on one thing for 15 minutes a day for 2 months until it becomes a part of who you are, and then you focus on the next thing, over the course of the year, now you have 6 new things, right? If you have 6 new habits and they're promoting your health, that's going to drastically change your quality of life 10, 15, 20 years into the future.
And that's
the powerful stuff.
And that's the essence of how we try to bring this to people, because you don't have to transform your life overnight, right?
Yeah.
But when it becomes a habit or the neurocircuitry is in there where it just becomes natural, and it doesn't take very long, right? You just said it. It's like, it doesn't take long for neuroscience to wire these habits in, because we know when we brush our teeth, we do it without thinking, right?
Yeah.
You even you get up in the middle of the night and you put on the coffee machine. Like we're doing all this in the background because we've wired the circuitry.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things that we tend to gravitate towards, we wired sort of the things that aren't regenerative, the things that are depleting our resources. Think about just breathing. Like there's different ways that you can put on certain things to remind you that you're breathing through your belly, not through the chest. And like, there's just these little things that they do compound in a really easy way if you allow them to. And like you said, like, that's why I do with my meditation or coherence training, like with stress adaptation, it's like, can you do something 15 minutes once or twice a day? Everybody pretty much says yes. And then it's just the repetitive nature of it. Because yes, if you get up at a certain time, like these things, I call them your biorhythms, right? Your rhythms, your self-care routine, things that you are okay with that don't take a lot of effort. That's the beauty part of it.
And just chunking it off into small little bite-sized things. These 2 months, Great. Focus on your breathing. Then after that, focus on, it could even be building the nighttime routine. It can be going to work out. It could be making sure you prep a meal before you like get busy, or do it at night. So in the first thing in the morning, you have a healthy meal to eat. Like, there's so many cool little routines that you can start building. And don't think of it, I never want anyone to think like, oh, this is overwhelming. It's like, what's the one manageable step you can take today?
Well, that's the health coaching side of things, and that's what we do. I always just love bringing people into their own version of vibrant health.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you said, there's so much we can do. It's like a menu of awesome services. We didn't know James Nestor brought the breath back into the equation. And, one of the things I was thinking about is like, breath has been sacred in almost every healing tradition. Ayurveda, indigenous ceremonies, martial arts, like, there's science to what we're talking about here, but that information is timeless, right? This podcast is timeless ancient wisdom meets modern science. It's not or, it's together.
Yeah.
So these guys have been doing it for thousands of years, and we sort of just forgot about it, right? Like, over 500 years, we forgot that breath was actually really important. And how fun is this anthropological way of like, you know what? It's because we don't use our mouth as the same we used to. So it's like the awareness has been lifted, but now we have things we can do, and we can, like you said earlier, like, it just makes sense. These are when things really just make sense, where you don't have to like analyze and think and like talk about, is it going to be for me? Is it going to work? It's like, no, this actually just makes sense. These are one of those things that makes sense. Like, for me, meditation makes sense because when I've done it and I've applied it to my life, I can't go without it anymore. Some people like to do breath work. That's something like cold plunges. We know all the science on all this stuff, but it's like, how does it fit into your personal space? Do something, not just don't do nothing,
For sure. And it's interesting because, like, the more developed we become, the more conveniences that we create, and then we don't realize the health implications until like it's too late. And then now I
was just talking about this with one of my awesome friends today.
Let's go.
We're literally talking about this. Like, if you look at the totality of life, it's like, yes, all of our modern conveniences have gotten us to the place where we eat all this food that's really bad for us. We have all this technology that we can't stop anymore. It's all dopamine hits and death scrolls. We know it all exists, yet we still do it. And then I'm looking at, like, you go to Peru, it doesn't even exist. It's not in their consciousness because they don't have internet. They have to eat from the food. And like, they're living in dirt huts. And I see smiles from miles away on these kids having so much beauty in their life. Yeah. And you're like, I come back and I'm like, these modern day conveniences over generations has tipped the scales to where, like, hey, this phone was pretty cool when it came out when I was in the 90s. Like, it was a really cool thing, but now it's kind of we're going like, now people are doing social media detox and like food, like revolutions and things like, it's like, how did we get here? Crazy, doesn't it?
It's so wild. And, I think it's this whole airway concept ideally becomes integrated so that we can revert back to developing kids in a way that actually expands their maxilla so that they don't have to put an appliance in the upper palate of their mouth to create more space so that their tongue can sit properly and create a seal for nasal breathing. Like, that's the ideal, is to be able to create a future in which we kind of have health as a default and it's integrated with our society where we're living so that we don't have to do this, like, this almost pendulum swim. Yeah. It feels like, where it's like, adopt a new thing and then, like what you're saying, detox from it. Like,
well, it's like, we're not, I never vilify anything, but like, I've really been thinking about this, is like, if our human it's not even society. If our species would take a look at health as like, it's not a luxury, but we've been in this model, like our modern day world has gotten to this place where we think being less sick or sick is managed is the epitome of health. And I always just say we're no longer taking away disease. We just restore balance.
Yeah.
We restore vitality to where we grow up going, we eat food that's coming from the ground and it doesn't have chemicals on it and it's regenerative. Let's talk about regenerative farming because this is something you've been thinking about and working on, right?
Yeah.
Like that
100%.
regenerative, within less than one generation, we could turn the whole world around. We know that we're beating this world up. Nature always wins, people, always. So we're not here to control the world and the nature around us, but we have to be in harmony with it. We've taken all the pesticides and all the Monsanto, whatever you want to call it, glyphosate, like everything. And it doesn't have to be like that, especially with AI. Like all these things is we have the choice to make now that says, like, we don't need the plastics. We don't need the forever chemicals. We don't need all these things to exist. There's such a different way. In a very short period of time, we've already demonstrated it that we can move in this other direction. So now that we have a little bit of time, you're building a regenerative farming neighborhood. I love just the sound of that, like this healing community centers. It sounds less like a startup and more kind of like a village to me. What are you actually trying to create?
Yeah. A village, a healthy cult, almost the kind of the portrayed feeling after that introduction to it. But it would just be an area at which health, like what we were saying, health is a default. People are able to grow up and be able to pick food off of trees and go grab like lettuces or eggs from like the chicken coop and just restore our connection with how we actually grow our food. Because a lot of the time, I mean, I would be shook if it was over like 10% of our urban population has actually stepped foot and put their hands in the soil where their food is grown. Like, it is just, the disconnect is so massive. And I don't necessarily think that it has to be that way. Like, we have country clubs where there's 18 holes of just grass and it's watered every day. And if we replaced that with a bunch of edible food, you know, perennials and annuals, just different crops that integrate really well together and create symbiotic relationships, we could have a flourishing ecosystem where we are fed off the land. And, you know, the clubhouses can be that space where people gather, where the food is aggregated. You know, there's workout classes happening and creating a space where there is purpose for our elderly. So I grew up in South Florida, and a lot of people around like my stage growing up, it wasn't necessarily as popular. And so there was a lot of people retiring. And it was kind of like the place people go to retire. And my grandma, she actually has like really bad dementia and Alzheimer's right now. But she was in a elderly living retirement community. And there's just hundreds of homes of elderly people just sitting around watching TV. And my grandma was the best cook. She just loves having kids around, but the environment in which like society is putting our elderly in isn't conducive of essentially giving them any sense of purpose. And I think for our like, you know, our future generations, having a stronger sense of community, splitting up the demographics so that elderly can have purpose, and at the same time alleviate some of the young parents from the responsibility of having kids, and have that ability to go in and actually restore our nutrients into the soil while feeding ourselves. Like, it's just a concept that it makes so much sense.
It's exactly the way we used to live.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, I love this space and I love these conversations. So thank you, because it literally, we're remembering things that we've forgotten at the same time of utilizing it in the modern day world.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
So good. So good.
And it's all happening. I actually had, I don't even remember if I talked to you about this or not, but my friend just texted me that he got 159 acres of farmland in Fillmore, California. Um, and he's like, it's an avocado and orange farm, and I'm switching it over to organic, and then it's going to become regenerative. But I just got all this land, and I'd love to have you over so we can talk about what it looks like to start building community here.
So
And I was
cool.
like, yes, this is it manifesting itself. It's definitely
Well, that's the thing is like
gonna
these
come.
things that make sense, they're just vibratory energies that it will happen without us. Like evolution in this way is going to happen with or without us. And it's like you said, it's like it's happening. Whether or without me, it's just it's happening, right?
Yeah.
Because it's out there. This is what we're doing. This is what we're moving toward.
For sure. And I think when we put ourselves in that type of environment, that type of situation of being connected with the earth, being connected with like a family unit, having a stronger sense of community, a stronger sense of connection towards our food, like everything in our life becomes simpler. Like our mental health is just so much better. I just actually did this video on like what happiness is. And essentially it's like being present and grateful. And when you have an environment that's conducive of you to be present where you are physically, it just default makes you more grateful. As opposed to, on the other hand, it's really easy to like, get wired into social media or other technologies that'll take you and start to put you into like, oh, I wish my life was here. Or like you kind of get into that comparison type of state.
Well, and you're completely not present either. And there's
Yeah.
probably not a whole lot of gratitude coming from that.
For sure. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun to be way more intentional. Now that we have all these technologies, it's going to be way more fun to be intentional about what we're creating and the impact that it has on our quality of life for both our health and like the amount of time we have to spend in order to get things done.
I think that's where the AI and the technology should be focused on, right? We can save the
Yeah.
planet in less than a generation. And what are we going to do with more of that time if AI and other things are going to be able to do that for us? Like the other flip side of that pendulum is we get more lazy, we eat less good, and we sit there and like that other dystopia happens. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want to be in nature. I want to help people. I want to do things that I need to do.
Yeah.
What do you rapid fire here because we're getting ready to like make this and wrap it up, but like what do you believe that most of your peers in the health and wellness space won't say out loud?
That's a good question.
Whatever comes to you. This is rapid fire. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
I would say the thing that most people won't say is that their opinion or belief around health is really only one or two deviations away from everybody else. And I always hear people like say like, this way is wrong, my way is right. But in the grand scheme of like all recommendations, almost everyone's pointing towards whole foods, right? Everyone's pointing towards the more you move, the better, and do things in a different way. So I would say most people struggle with finding the unifying factors towards recommending what's healthy for individuals. And I really hope that that starts to shift and change. Like that's what I'm really excited about.
I love that answer. It brought me to the conversation I had with someone that opened my eyes because I think in health care, sick care, health care, however we want to look at it, is we focus on the very specifics, right? The doctor, that's the surgeon on the wrist, like getting it all the way down where it's very structured that way. It's deep, right? You go very deep because you're very aligned with a specialty.
Yeah.
And I think society, I go deep, but I also go wide. Like you talked about, it's like it's wide. Like Whole Foods doesn't have to be paleo, doesn't have to, it's like it's Whole Foods. It's a wide thing that I think people get afraid of. And I think that's what you just said to me. we won't say that out loud because it's too, people can't wrap their head around that thing that can get instant gratification. I was like, no, just cut out all the crap in your food. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
Yeah.
Or, whatever's whole foods, and do it for 30 days. See how you feel. Like, those things are very simple, but we just, like, it flows right off, right? And I don't know the answer to the question, to the solution to that, but that's exactly what I took out of that. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
If someone's listening today and suspecting their airway might be a part of that story, what's the first thing they can actually do this week?
I would say that ACEs quiz that we talked about
Is it on your website?
3 minutes. Yeah, it's on the website.
What's the website so people know?
airwayhealth.com. And there's a banner up at the top. It says evaluations. When you hover over it, it'll have a drop down of, we've got structural evaluations. We have the sleep analysis that we talked about. All the way at the bottom, it says the airway stability index, 2-minute airway stability index. So that would be the first step, is just go in and see if the things that you're experiencing might be related to your airway.
Where can people link in with you? You're on Insta, you're on all the channels.
Yeah. So my personal page is just my name, Michael_Laing. And then the company page is Airway Health.
So check them out, airwayhealth.com. We'll have now that we have our community, like our Stay Well community, we've got our online, web app. So we are having resources now. So we're going to be putting these resources in the vault. GoBeyondThePills.com. We're going to be moving that to Stay Well Institute. But right now, you can access these things. So when we drop this episode, all these resources are going to be available to the community. So we can grow, and together we grow is a philosophy I have. So thank you for that. I appreciate you coming on today, Michael. I know that this is just the beginning, not the end for our journeys. If you could prescribe one thing, not a supplement, not a device, just a practice or a shift, what would it be?
I'd say intentional nasal breathing. Find that point at which you can still maintain breathing through your nose. Put your tongue, we'll go through the whole thing. So we're going to find the T-spot. So this is the proper tongue posture for sealing the tongue to the roof of your mouth while you're nasal breathing. So say the word Tigger, and as soon as you say T on the Tigger, your tongue kind of goes right behind the front teeth.
Yep.
Right? And that's the T-spot. Now from there, that's where you want your tongue to rest. You don't want it jamming into the front of your teeth, because over time, what that's going to do is kind of push your teeth out. The T-spot is exactly where you want to be. And from there, you can kind of like suction the rest of the tongue up just lightly. So it pulls up, and then you have a seal. Now, maintaining that seal makes nasal breathing so easy and also creates a ton of awareness around it. And like I said, finding a point where whether it's like power walking, washing dishes, gardening, like going to the grocery store, shopping for things, just focusing on your breath, on that nasal breathing, creating that awareness is really going to just bring you into the present moment. And I think that's such a powerful thing that anyone can do. That doesn't cost any money. You can do it at any given time of the day. That is my hope, that people take a little bit of that skill and apply it to their lives.
Love it. Simple, easy, fun.
Yeah, it is so fun. Being healthy is really fun. I think it's honestly one of the most fun things that I've ever done. It's like, at first it might seem a little bit daunting, but once you start to feel it, it becomes just something that compounds over time, and it's really fun.
Well, we got to put the fun back in the world, right? Like, it doesn't have to be, we don't suffer when we're healthy. We don't suffer when we're vibrantly healthy and we wake up with all the energy that we have. I love it. Michael, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, my brother, for just showing up in the world that where and how you do it. Can't wait to visit you in Austin, and we'll go from there.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh, and excited to keep the ball rolling.
Sounds good. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Until next time, stay well.
Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to de-prescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.